Reality is an illusion. Hello, I'm Ryan and welcome to day 18 of the 30-day Speaking to Camera Challenge. Today we were tasked with just having a rough concept in mind in terms of what we'd like to discuss and then just allowing the thoughts to flow. So as it goes, I do not have any bullet points. We'll just wait and see where this takes us. Today's topic is looking at your realm of awareness, the things we believe to be true. This got me going down another rabbit hole of my past at university where I studied philosophy, looking at the philosophers like Descartes who stated things along the lines of don't trust your senses, they lie to you continuously, and we must actually doubt everything as opposed to believing something without being absolutely true. Well, absolutely convinced that it is truth. I think quite often our brains almost go and when given one little measly fact or opinion, we go and take this on as absolute truth. We look at just a few bits of knowledge or a few ideas and say these back up what I think, and thus they are justified. And I think in modern times we do this more and more and more regularly. If you're looking at someone like Descartes, he would say doubt everything until there's absolute proof that it exists. Yet if we're looking today at something like the fake news that exists in such a prevalence, with such prevalence, I don't know where I'm going. Cut. So Descartes was around in the 1600s. At this time, he basically stated that we shouldn't believe our senses. Our senses lied to us. They were parts of us, but they are the great deceivers. So we had to find other means of solidifying all the evidence instead of just trusting our senses. We can look at this with ourselves and how often we can get one little measly piece of information and create an entire narrative that goes to support this. But it's all based on one little grain, which isn't even truth. Regularly, this is just an opinion. It's one that is derived from our own fears and insecurities. This we can look at in our personal lives in terms of our relationships, which I make blunders on as much as the next person, unfortunately. This is the nature of growing, and I think so long as we can, again, see that we're making some progress in terms of looking at things as they are as opposed to how we feel they are is important. I'm not going and saying feelings don't matter. They do matter, but in a different context. It's just that we need to look at truth as being paramount. We need to say, I think in philosophy, there was one thing that we used to look at regularly and say, how many versions of truth are there? And we'd say, as many people in the room, plus one. Everyone has their own idea of what the truth is, but there's only one true version of truth. And I think in modern times as well, if we're looking at it, regularly we go and say, I'm living my truth. It's almost one of those that, even in a statement as innocuous as that, quite often there's something very interesting in terms of society. Why would we say, this is my truth? It is either the truth or it's not. We could go and say, this is the way I would choose to live my life. Sure, that's all based on opinion, but not based on something like truth. It's almost as though the word truth has been so watered down and filtered out that it no longer holds the same meaning as it once did. But I digress. So, in terms of your realm of awareness, quite often if we're looking at our day-to-day surroundings or just engaging with life, we end up neglecting more information than we're taking in. Everything is selective. We can see this when we're looking at buying a new car. We'll suddenly see hundreds of them on the road. When we're looking at property, suddenly we're aware of all the for sale signs. If we're looking at new clothing with regards to sales, suddenly you're seeing all those items that you want to see everywhere. Your knowledge base surrounding that grows infinitely. But why? So, a friend of mine basically made the comparison to climbing. Or we can look at the first person to run the 4-minute mile. This is a comparison that everyone is very aware of. It's one that has been thrown out there with absolute regularity. So, in this story, running a 4-minute mile was absolutely impossible. It was one that was beyond the scope of human biology. Yet, the moment someone broke through that barrier, and people could see that it was possible, that shifted. Suddenly you had dozens of people making the same achievement within a matter of months. What changed? To me, that's the question that one needs to grapple with, really. What is it about seeing someone else achieve it, or achieve something, that makes it possible? And what is it within that first person that allows them to break through that boundary and achieve what no one else has before? Is it just sheer willpower? Is it that determination? Is it a shift in the mindset? And I think that's what it comes down to with all the self-help gurus of modern times going and talking about visualization. It's about breaking through those barriers that we've erected for ourselves. Barriers that prevent us from moving past certain things or certain obstacles. It is these that allow us to really break out, to exist as the best versions of ourselves that we can. But it does require a shift in mindset. It requires an opening up of the awareness. It requires you looking at things and saying, okay, well, this is how I perceive them now, but does this need to be the way that they are perceived indefinitely? Is it one that I can shift this? I'm not looking at it and saying, well, humans are capable of flight. There are certain things that are, at least currently, outside the bounds of what a human without technology can achieve. However, that being said, this was also once the belief across, in the 1800s. Yet we had the Wright brothers and several others that kind of did go and create means of achieving this. Like, yes, they weren't covering themselves in feathers and deciding to fly away like Icarus, but they still broke through that barrier that said no human could fly, that everything had to be land-based. It's just looking up and saying, what if? And I think that's something that's very important to apply to our own lives, looking at it and saying both, what if? What if we can do this and break through the boundaries? And at the same time, on the other hand, looking at it and saying, doubt every belief that you have, or every exceptionally ingrained belief that you have, things that are holding you back. Don't go and just take them as absolute fact, but rather look at it and say, well, just because I believe this, and sometimes I believe it fanatically, doesn't mean it needs to be true. It's one that we can break through those bounds. And I think that measure of doubt is very important on the one hand. I think that ability to say, what if, embark on that journey of curiosity and say, can we push through these obstacles, is vital. So I think I'm going to call it there. This one has been a little bit of a rambly one all over the place, just in terms of me with my thoughts. Again, one that was completely unscripted and just allowed for a bit of a flow of ideas in terms of where they were. I hope it holds some value. It's something I think I might touch on these topics a little bit more. I feel as though I have missed them exceptionally since university times. Don't feel like I get enough of a chance to dabble with these. So yeah, it might be another mini philosophy series, but we'll wait and see. But anyway, I just wanted to say thanks again for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely spectacular one. Cheers.